From Pet Sematary to It. Why is Stephen King's work so scary? The world lives in terror of Stephen King. Over nearly 5, his unembellished prose has made him an easy target for critics. Literary circles, it's inevitable a little snobbery will arise out of such immense popularity. King is one of the best. King continues to be a major source of inspiration for Hollywood, having inspired nearly 100 film and TV adaptations. The latest, although his genre-sprawling efforts have seen him mix sci-fi, fantasy, westerns, and crime fiction into his work, he's still primarily thought of as a master of horror. Like him or not, one major influence on his work is H.P. Lovecraft, whose monsters reflected his own anxieties over the vast scientific and technological advancements of the early 20th century. To him, when it comes to King's work, however, terrors don't rise out of the incomprehensible, but out of the things America knows to be true but has, for so long, tried to deny. Carrie is a fire. In Danse Macabre, his 1981 collection of essays on horror, King names the three emotions elicited by the genre: revulsion, horror, and terror. It's the last of the. King deals frequently with denial, too, albeit with a supernatural twist. The dead. 4. The past is a haunting place, rendered in metaphorical terms in The Shining, where the hotel amplifies Jack Torrance's fears that he'll repeat his past mistakes, after his drinking problem led him to accidentally break his son's arm. We cannot deny our pasts or try to escape them. The population of Pet Sematary will be released in UK cinemas on April 5th. Related 58 must-watch horror movies. Microsoft Guess.
Raindrop, drop top, top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park.